Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hey kids, I'm Mike,
I'm PJ.
and today on the lunch table, we're going to rank the five worst Marvel films and five worst DC films. And at the end, PJ and I are going to combine forces, we're going to form our own Avengers, and rank the shittiest together with these films, the
The
top five.
world's shittiest movies.
Yes. So we're going to go straight into it, folks. And PJ, I just want to let this be known to our listeners. Now, out of my top five for each, for Marvel and DC, I'm only ranking the ones that I've actually seen. So I'm not going to put films that have been critically panned and I haven't seen. I'm only putting the ones that I've actually seen. So just wanted to make that be
Yeah,
known.
and
Hmm.
I've seen almost all the movies anyway. But there are a few I haven't seen. Like everyone's saying how terrible Madam Web is. I haven't seen it yet, so
Exactly.
it's not on my list because I don't know if it's as bad as they're saying. It
Exactly.
probably is, but I haven't seen it.
Exactly. Correct the mundo. So PJ, should we start with Marvel or DC first? What do you want to?
Well, I think DC is going to be a lot easier. So let's start with
Yeah,
Marvel.
that's you know what? Yeah, yep, exactly. Okay, so where's my list? Okay, so PJ, actually, you want to start this one off? I did
Sure.
the intro. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I'll start. So I know this is a controversial pick for one of the worst movies. I actually did this one as a franchise instead of just one movie because they're all. I'm just grouping these all together, and then I'll say which one I like the least. But my number five is Guardians of the Galaxy franchise.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'll,
Okay.
I'll preface this by saying I don't think they're badly made movies. I don't even think they're unentertaining.
Right.
But in the narrative that they were setting up for the MCU, these movies feel very out of place. The tone is all off for them. I understand they're funny and they're jokey and there's all the music and all the other stuff, but these movies, when you really think about it, are setting up Thanos more than all the others.
Mm,
It's his daughter is in there. This is the first time we see people really going after an Infinity Stone, right? It's really building to what that battle is going to be. Starts with the first Guardians movie, and then you turn it into a joke, right? And for me,
yeah.
that tone falls. And I've said this in other podcasts. You go back, you listen to other movies, or we talk about Marvel movies. I'm sure I've probably said similar things. The tone of these movies ruins them for me, ruins the whole franchise. If you go back to the third one, there's that really just heartbreaking origin tale for Rocket, where
Yeah. I never seen it, but I remember you
okay,
reviewed it
yeah,
in one of
he's
the past
he's
episodes.
abused. It's done so well where you really feel for like this little cartoon character of a raccoon. Where you're like, I can't believe someone would mistreat this
Yeah.
animal, and like then they turn it into a joke, but then they undercut it with that joke, and it ruins the moment.
Mm,
I think all three of the Guardians Galaxy movies do that. I think that for me, the second one is probably the worst of the three. But overall, I have a big problem with those Guardians movies because of the tone. I'm not saying a movie shouldn't be fun,
right.
right? But think of like an Indiana Jones movie, right? They're fun, right? They're
Yeah. Yeah.
adventure. There's action, but there's still gravitas to it. There's still a point where it's like, oh, something serious is about to happen, and the tone is okay for that. They don't under. Yeah, there are some funny moments where Indy makes a one-liner and you laugh and stuff, but it's not a whole comedy the whole movie. I think because they turn those movies into a comedy, it ruins the entire trilogy for me because of all, like I said, of all the movies, these should have been the ones that introduce you to Thanos the most. And if Thanos is this big of a threat, we shouldn't be making jokes about it.
No, I that's a great point. I think also, and as we go through my list of Marvel films, I say how much of the impact Guardians had on the whole franchise
Hmm.
because it really incorporated that whole comedy
Yep.
and just the element of music. Because I don't mind music in films. I have like pop songs, things
No,
like
no, I
that.
don't either.
But it really shows you how it changed and shift since that movie came. You had Thor Ragnarok. All
Yep.
it changed the whole vibe
Because
after that.
you're 100% right, and I think it changed it for the worse, which is another reason why it's on my list of the worst. Think about the first Iron Man movie. They had the music in that. They had the
Yeah,
Iron Man song and stuff in that. He was entertaining. He was funny, but the tone of the movie didn't feel like it was just a comedy,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
There was action, there was adventure, there were laughs, there was a little bit of everything, but the tone still kind of worked.
Agreed. Yep. I definitely think after that, Guardians got involved. The more of the franchise itself became a bit more lighthearted, a little bit
Hmm.
more comedic. Like I
Yep.
said, you can throw some jokes in there, but yeah, good one. Um, yeah, for my number five for Marvel, like I said, for me, folks, I didn't just do like the cinematic universe. I went back from like I'll say like '99 until now. But this one came out in 2011. PJ, this is Ghost Rider 2: Spirit of
Ooh.
Vengeance.
Okay.
Um, Look, the first one with Nicolas Cage was bad, but for some reason it was like
We're
you
still
could get through.
charming.
Yeah, you can get through it. You can
Yeah.
get through it. But this one, wow. I mean, I just thought this movie was horrendous. And you and spoken about this 100 times. I always get a little like nervous when they start to incorporate a kid in like this movie. Nicolas Cage
Yep.
has to protect some. You only saw this movie once, but like that's what you don't want to see it. You didn't want to see it with this movie once, but all I remember is like I'm like, oh god, I gotta protect a kid. I mean, look, there's movies where they do it right. Terminator 2, Logan, obviously. Even like Deadpool 2. I'm not crazy about that film. It's funny. What makes that movie work? I don't want to talk about Spirit of Vengeance here, Ghost Rider 2, but in Deadpool 2, he has to protect a boy. But it's I think they knew what they were working with there, so the movie
Yeah.
was a bit better. But this movie just looks cheap. It's just a stupid movie, and nothing brings a movie down when you have bad CGI. Like you can have like bad practical effects, but for some reason it doesn't bring it down like bad CGI.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
once you see that, it just boo. It just
Because it looks like you go from like you're watching
oh
a
my
movie and then there's like video game graphics in there. And you're like,
yeah,
what
and it's
happened?
just exactly. I always think of like the Power Ranger movie, where that movie's actually not that bad. It's fine for what it is. But when that ending fight with the there, I mean, that was the time. That's the best technology they had. So I guess they didn't want people running around in suits. But it really dates that movie. It hurts it because the rest of
It
the movie is
really
actually
does.
not that bad for what it is. It's really not that bad. But yeah, this movie though, Ghost
Was
Rider
was
2,
this the one with Ghost Rider on the horse, or was that the first one?
I think that's the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Because I
remember.
like that imagery. The
Yeah.
Cowboy Ghost Rider. That always looks
Yeah.
cool when they do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I remember the first one like kind of being almost like the Venom movies that have come
Yeah.
out. We're like, we know what we're making. This is a little bit more dumb, like they know.
Yeah.
But this one was just like, man, I feel like everyone just kind of walked in on set, like, all right, let's just get this over with. It just seems like, man, just like a mess. And look, it's a bad script, and I just don't understand. Like, that's why I think what the Venom movies work a little bit better. It's like, okay, we know these scripts are like we're just doing the bare minimum to make these movies work, but we're gonna make it. We know what we're making, and we're gonna have
Yep.
fun making it. Like I feel like honestly, everyone's like, "Hey, we know we're making a stupid movie. Let's have stupid fun." Like this movie was like, this movie is stupid, and we cannot pull off this kind of tone that we want to pull off of some kind of hellish,
Right.
vengeance kind of thing, whatever. But yeah, that's my number five, Ghost Rider 2, Spirit of Shit. So,
Spirit of shit. You ain't kidding.
what's your
I
number four, PJ?
For my number four, I actually did Thor: Love and Thunder.
Wow. Right.
Now,
Okay. Good pick. Okay.
let me say this. I know the first Thor and the second Thor are not the best. They're not the
Yeah.
worst. They're just fine. They're just
Yeah.
fine.
Mhm.
Ragnarok is fun.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
There's a lot
Mhm.
of fun in Ragnarok. It's a different tone. They shift the whole thing, but it's still kind of fun, right? I like it. I think out of all the Thor movies, it's probably the best one. Thor: Love and Thunder turns it into, once again, like I said, it's a complete joke.
Yep.
Have you seen Love and Thunder
I
yet or
have
no?
not seen it. I just from what you told me about it
Yeah.
and other people, it just
Yeah.
sounds, you
Again, they introduce a kid, like you said, introduce the kid, things go wrong, and that's what happened here. There's a running joke about screaming goats that's actually pretty funny, but the more they do it, and you're like, this is a superhero movie. I just need them to fight a villain, and they took a villain from the comics and Gore the God Butcher.
Yeah.
That
Like you have
to be
Christian
like,
Bale, joining your cast, and it's like you gotta,
yeah,
you
you got
gotta
to
do
do
this
something
stuff.
good with him.
Yeah.
Make him menacing, make him powerful, make him scary, make him really have some like something behind the villain. Like
Yeah.
it was a joke. He was just a joke. When the design they gave him, for whatever reason, reminded me of Powder. Remember the movie Powder? Right.
Yeah.
So every
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
this guy shows up on the screen, I'm like, it's Powder. That's who he is. He
Right.
doesn't look menacing. He looks like a joke. I mean, it just failed. It just failed. And then it, the and then there's a plot line where like Natalie Portman is
I was gonna
dying.
say I couldn't
Yeah,
think of her name. Yep.
Natalie Portman's in there, and she's also Thor, but she's dying of cancer every time she turns into Thor. It's a whole thing, and you're like, this should be sad, but you're undercutting it with screaming goats again. Like,
Right.
pick a lane. Is this a sad movie? Is it supposed to be a funny movie? You're putting the kid in there that adds nothing to the movie. It was a mess. It was a mess, and Thor deserved better because Chris Hemsworth is the only one of those original Avengers that will just stick around forever. It seems he's not looking to leave.
Yeah. Hmm.
So give this guy something better to work with. If he's the only original Avenger that's going to stick around for you, make it worth his while. Don't give him a piece of shit movie.
Yeah. I can't think. What was it? Tiki Watiki? I
Yeah,
can't
well,
think of it.
Tika Waititi,
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I mean,
who I like as a
uh,
director.
yeah. I think
He's a very unique guy, but
it seems like I said I haven't seen that film, The Love and Thunder. It just seems like a kid in a candy store. I think he just
yeah,
got too much,
yep.
like it's like when you go to a buffet where you throw everything on like your plate and you're like, ugh, this doesn't really taste
Yeah,
all that
it's
well
like
good
he was like, I
together.
don't know if I'm getting another one. Let me put it all in this one, and it's like
Yeah, like his
didn't
comedy and
work.
all that seems like
Yeah.
he needed to dial it back. But yeah, that's a good pick. For number four, PJ, I have 2003's Hulk.
Okay.
That's it, the Hulk, the one with Eric Bana.
Is that the Ang Lee Hulk?
Yes, and
Okay.
exactly. I wanted to bring that up because you had this guy Ang Lee. This guy made Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Brokeback Mountain, Life of Pi. These movies are exceptional. These movies are so good. So I mean, obviously some of these movies didn't come out. Those are after this movie that came, but it's after Crouching Tigers. I'm like, all right.
Right.
I just remember seeing this at the theater. I was like, I don't know how this movie could be so boring, just flat, stale, slow. I, I just remember Eric Bana just being just like a sloth, just like a clipboard. Then you have Nick Nolte, I guess, playing himself. He's a fucking he's just nuts in this film. He's like they basically it looks like he was like I feel like he was like homeless, like on like Hollywood Boulevard or something like that. And they're like, hey, you want a job? And he's like, all right. And he just looks like he just came out of bed, you know? And I just remember this movie just being just bizarre, man. Just I don't know if you remember like just some of the bizarre scenes, like I don't know if this is comic book, like if this is canon, but like for me that doesn't make a break a film when you make a comic. It just has to fit with the storyline. But just remember, it just felt so random. Like they're showing flashbacks. He's getting injected with starfish. Like I don't remember. I don't even remember. I only saw this movie like once, twice maybe. And obviously we know Bruce Banner he gets the radiation, but like in this movie they're saying that he gets injected with starfish. That's why he can regenerate
Yeah.
plus the
It,
radiation. He's fighting. Remember he fights like dogs. He
the Hulk
fights
dogs?
yeah, he fights exactly. Like it
Hulk
just seemed
dogs.
like out of nowhere, and then at the end he's fighting Nick Nolte. He turns into like an electric cloud. I know that's based off of one of the villains
Yeah.
he fights, but he's like a giant like tornado. He's fighting, and then you have I think Jennifer Connelly, like his love interest. I think she's a good actress, but it's just amazing. It really shows you when you have a bad script, nothing,
Nothing could save it.
no way. And I just remember this movie just being just like awful. And I just feel this is just a side note. Ever since, and I do like. Let me backtrack. I do like when they, I guess, rebooted it with Edward Norton. I do
Mhm.
like that film, The Incredible Hulk. And I like. I know he didn't want to do it in any more movies. So I got Mark Ruffalo. I like Mark Ruffalo, but I feel like Marvel has just assassinated the Hulk, the character himself. They made him into a dweeb. He's not for him to not be kicking ass in Endgame always pissed me off. Like, how do you
Yeah.
put him in a Hulk's Buster suit? He should be out there beating the shit out of everybody. And then now he's like, wearing glasses. I mean, I never saw the series She-Hulk, but just from the clips, I mean, it looks
They
so.
neutered the Hulk big time.
Yeah, I mean, they took the bulk out of Hulk. So yeah, 2003 is
I
awful
will
movie,
say
man.
there are some things about that Ang Lee movie they did very well. Um,
Oh yeah, some. I'm
there
like I said, some of these
there's
movies are.
I actually
But
like their Hulk.
oh yeah,
Had they
his
given him
look.
something to do,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
best. Like he moves the way the Hulk moves. I I just think, like you said, you can't save a bad script, and that movie got a bad script. And I
Oof.
mean, you expect more out of Ang Lee.
Yeah,
I agree. It's not the strongest Hulk movie. You know, part of the problem with the Hulk movies is also this: they Marvel can't make a Hulk movie. It has to be in conjunction with, I think it's Universal or whoever, and
yeah.
they have some
Hmm.
say as to what the story is going to be. He could be in other movies, like if they make an Avengers movie and you put the Hulk in it, they can do that. but some legal thing prevents them from making the
Mhm.
Hulk movie you want. And I always kind of wonder, is that the reason they shit on the character a little bit? Because they're like, well, we can't do anything that we really want to do with him anyway,
Right.
so we
Mhm.
can't. Let's just make him shitty.
Right.
Because this
Yeah,
way,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
you
know
know
it's
what I
kind of
mean?
tough too. He's always like running for the government and stuff, those kind of
Right.
things. But I just, I don't know. There's got to be there's bright people out there. They can make this thing work. You know what I mean? Or
He should be deployed as a weapon.
yeah,
Yeah.
or I don't know if they have this in the comic books, but like I know that Abomination comes, but like
Hmm.
you should have a dude where like I don't know if this is I don't know, you know more than me. They should just we're gonna create another Hulk to find him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Do that.
And
Just make
well,
that the movie.
the Red Hulk. That's the whole point
Oh,
of the
there
Red
you go.
Hulk.
Yeah, make it the Red
And
Hulk.
they're gonna
Just
have
do it
Red Hulk in
already.
a movie pretty soon, and it's gonna be Harrison Ford.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
As an actor, like I mean, as an actor, as I guess a voice actor, is he this
no,
live?
he's gonna play the guy. What's his face died? The original general, and they recast him
Oh,
as Harrison Ford, and now Harrison Ford's gonna be
I see.
the character that
Okay.
eventually
Wow, I had
becomes.
no idea. So
Yeah.
yeah, they need to do that. I think that's what they need to. I know
Yeah.
it's hard for him to, I guess have many storylines, but you got to do something like that. He doesn't have a whole. He doesn't have 20 films. Just do a nice trilogy, then have him
Yeah.
hanging out with the Avengers. But yeah, Ang Lee movie, horrendous. PJ, what's your number three for your Marvel?
Um, I put Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Mm,
I had again, it's not even so much that it's terrible or anything. I just had such high hopes for it, and it didn't live up to it.
yeah.
The
Mm-hmm.
it was too goofy to be a horror movie, and I know Sam Raimi does goofy horror. Like
Right.
I get it, and it is very much like any other Sam Raimi goofy horror movie. But that's not what I want in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Like this is a movie where this dude is going through the multiverse. We're seeing different versions of these characters. Like so much could have happened, and it was goofy because it was Sam Raimi. And everyone's like, it was great, right? Because it was Sam Raimi. I'm like, just because it's Sam Raimi doesn't make it great. Sam
Yeah.
Raimi has done great things. This is
Yeah.
not one of them.
No way.
Everyone's always like, oh no, it feels exactly like the New York from Spider-Man. Great. Who cares? Who cares? It feels like that. The movie, he's not even like the main hero in the movie. It
Yeah,
winds up, it's
right. Being
that girl.
American. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, it's his movie. Let him do something. It- The
I
cap,
hate when they do stuff like that.
yeah,
I can't stand when movies do that. Like we talked about this another episode with Mad Max. It's really Furiosa.
yeah.
How do you do that, man? How do you do that? Oh my god.
And I'm like, just make him the hero of his own movie. This is what people want. And then you watch it and you're like, well, he's the cause of everything. Like the alternate Strange is like the cause. And he gives the people the answer how to beat everybody. I'm like, you're supposed to be smart. Reed Richards is giving out the answer on how to like destroy them. I'm like, this
Yeah,
is the
yeah, yeah.
smartest man in the world. You've dumbed down the smartest man in the world in this movie. You made him a joke. They got John Krasinski, who everyone has always wanted to be Mr. Fantastic since the
Yeah.
idea of Marvel relaunching that movie again. And they give it to him and they make him an idiot. And
Yep.
he's the cause of all the problems. The villain being Wanda just it doesn't feel right. And I
Yeah.
forget the order of operations. I don't remember if it was WandaVision and then Doctor Strange or Doctor Strange and then WandaVision. I forget.
I
I
think it's
think there was
Doctor Strange then WandaVision. Right. Hmm.
it's just like they don't connect right. It was a giant letdown from what that movie could have been.
Doesn't a giant like basically a giant boulder kill Scarlet Witch, right?
Yeah,
The
like
spoilers here.
like it's just
That's how
stupid,
she
right?
goes out, this character who
Yeah, and you know
I mean
she's
I
not
never really loved her
from
character that much, but
yeah.
uh
Uh it was just fails. And the whole point of them going through the whole point of them going through the multiverse is they have to get I think it's a Darkhold or whatever they need to get to beat
yeah.
Wanda. And
Yeah.
Wanda's looking for it. It's just he's the sorcerer supreme. Can't he just be powerful enough and they
Yeah.
have a magic battle? Couldn't that
Yep.
have been enough? Did we
Hmm.
need all the extra bullshit? It felt like just an excuse to show like what's his Patrick Stewart in the yellow chair. It feels
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
was
yeah.
for this movie to exist.
Yeah,
I I didn't care for it.
yeah. Yikes. Um yeah, my number three, PJ's, which it's hard to believe this came out in 2009, 15 years ago. So I had bad vibes about this film when it was coming out. X-Men Origins Wolverine, which I
Mm,
didn't like the idea of it because let's be real here. The X-Men movies always kind of revolved around Wolverine. So
Yep.
for him to have a standalone, it didn't really make any sense. If anything, it should have been one of the other characters. You
Who he
know,
haven't
one
seen.
I'm fair exactly.
Yeah.
So I just remember seeing this movie in theaters because look, we all like, Hugh Jackman, but I remember this movie being cheesy,
Hmm.
cheap, bad
Hmm.
CGI.
And what
I
a
just remember
waste the Gambit.
Yes, yep, I had that on here. Yep, waste of game. But I just remember, like, I always get nervous too at films. I'm like, oh god, when you start to see the cast, I start seeing like when you start to see like those pop culture
Yeah.
people, like I know I'm sure he's a really nice person, like Will I Am, the guy from the Black Eyed Peas. When I
Hmm.
start seeing that, I'm like, oh boy, I start getting nervous, because it starts to date the film. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Immediately, and yeah, it's just like some of the scenes, like when he like blows up a helicopter and he's that slow motion. I'm like, I always laugh. I remember, I no joke, I laughed, I laughed out loud in theaters. Remember towards the end of the film, I think William Stryker, yeah, he's in it. He shoots Logan in the head with an
Yeah.
boom, like point blank. Wow. I mean, looking back on that, that's amazing. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, I never see that thing. I'm like, holy shit, he just got shot in the head, and then the bullet comes out of his head. That
Pops
was a
out.
kind of a cool thing, but like, just the
Yeah.
fact that they shot this man point blank. I mean, like, wow. um, you know, yeah, you said Gambit was horrendous. Deadpool, obviously.
What
I
a
mean,
I don't know what they
obvious.
were thinking.
I mean, terrible, terrible. I mean, look, you can't. I know they had Ryan Reynolds do it. You can't have him. I guess when they were making, even this movie's cheesy as hell. You can't have Deadpool being that kind of like a Tasmanian devil, like
Right.
like acting like a nut, like he does in his solo films. But you gotta keep it a
He
little bit
almost
more.
looked like Baraka.
Yeah, from Mortal Kombat. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But woof, he was terrible.
That was
And
bad.
one of the things that was also really bad, and I feel like they never done his character really right, is Sabretooth. I like whatever his name,
Schreiber, Leave Schreiber.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I like him as an actor, but in this film, I didn't like him.
Here's
I
what
think
I couldn't figure
Sabretooth,
out
I
about
never
this.
felt. I always felt. Let me just finish this real quick.
Yeah.
I felt like I feel like Wolverine, because he's always been this character, basically the main character of the franchise. Like I said, let's be real. He should always have like a Joker. And I feel like it always should have been Sabretooth.
Hmm.
And I liked in the first X-Men, I liked Sabretooth in that film. Yes, he was kind of like a block of, he's like a Frankenstein, kind of dumb, didn't talk.
Yeah.
But at least he kind of had the look of it. And I feel like he's never had a real adversary kind of foe in his films. And I feel like this could have been a guy who's always coming back to like, just like, oh, this guy, I get like a sense of dread. Oh, I gotta kick his ass again. And I felt like till this day they still have not brought him back, that
Yeah.
character, or done him right. And boy,
But I couldn't figure out about this movie. I thought, maybe I'm crazy, but I thought it was the origin of the Wolverine we'd been watching since X-Men 1, right?
yeah. That's what it
So
was. Yes,
how does Liev Schreiber turn into the other Sabretooth?
yes, I know.
It doesn't
That's a
make
great.
any sense.
Yep. Hmm.
How does he go from being cerebral and smart and
Right.
an
Yeah.
army guy where they know each other, to what we see in X-Men 1, where it's like they might as well be strangers.
Yeah.
And he's an idiot. He doesn't talk, and he's just like an animal. What happened? What?
Excuse me.
Yeah. So
That movie's
that's
so bad it gave me a cold. Yeah. I mean, um, I don't know, Peach. I think it's just like a mess. I mean, because we know at this time it was owned by Fox, so Fox, I guess, couldn't
yeah,
work with them. Blah blah blah. I just remember the other blonde. Like I said, nothing hurts a film is like bad CGI, man. I just remember at the end. I remember people laughing in the theater. PJ, you remember at the end where it's like, Wolverine runs away after getting shot in the
yeah,
head, and you
yeah,
see the first called the Blackbird lands, and then
yeah.
CGI. Uh, Patrick Stewart comes out, dude. I laughed. People laughed. It was just so obvious and like awful looking. The same thing happened in what was it? I forgot which Star Wars film, but they show Princess Leia but young.
Yeah.
Whatever one, Rogue One, whatever the heck it is. Um, I want to be like, kid, look, we all know the back. We all know his head. Just show the back of anyone's bald ass head and just do it as a stand-in. That's all
Yeah.
you had to do. We would have known. Oh, it's Professor X. You could do it with the other characters, have a different young person like a
Right.
Cyclops or whatever, Jean Grey. But oh my God, just have a stand-in. They could have did it with the Princess Leia too. Just get someone to put that, her hairdo from
Yeah.
behind. Her head from. That's all you had to do. I mean, I wrote this in my notes. Imagine editing a film like this. You got to sit there. I mean, obviously it's your job. You got to edit it. But man, you think you could have went like, look, man, like to the director, look, bro, maybe we should just
This didn't work.
maybe
Yeah.
do a quick reshoot. You have another shot with just Patrick Stewart's head in the back. You got to show it from the front. Woo, man,
Yeah. Yeah.
damn. PJ, what's your number 2 for Marvel?
Here's where it gets tricky for me because I didn't know which one I wanted to go with.
Yep.
Because I have a few here that are really bad.
Mhm.
So because we spent a bunch of time with me saying how bad Wakanda Forever was in our
Yes.
on our under overrated movie episode, if you
Yep.
want my feelings on Wakanda Forever, go back a couple episodes when we talk about overrated movies, and I'll talk about how terrible Wakanda Forever is. I also think we have an episode where I reviewed it, and you can listen
Yep.
to how bad I think it is then. So I'm leaving that out, and I'm going
Mhm.
to go with a very controversial
Oh.
pick. Um, and it's a Spider-Man movie.
Oh.
I went with Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh wait, is that the recent run when I'm
That's the
getting
one where
confused because they all have
that's
the
the one where
word
they
home
bring
in it.
back Toby and Andrew
Oh, okay.
Garfield.
Okay. I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
It
I know what you
again,
mean.
it's one
I
of
know,
those things where you're like, it's not that it wasn't entertaining. The plot of that movie, ridiculous. It makes no sense because we've already set up. I mean, let's just think about it, right? The whole point of this movie is Peter Parker wants everyone to forget who he is,
yep.
so that his family and stuff is safe because his identity was revealed to the
Yeah.
world because of Mysterio, and now his family's not safe. They shoehorn in all these cameos from Daredevil being his lawyer. They don't actually explain how he's gets out of that legal predicament. He just does.
Right.
And then he goes to Doctor Strange to be like, "Hey, can you magic it up so everyone forgets that I'm Spider-Man?" And you're just like, first of all, we just had a movie where Doctor Strange is like, Iron Man has to die. There's no other way to. I
Yep.
can't mess with the timeline. I can't mess with the
Yeah.
timeline,
Mhm.
right? We've just had movies of that with Doctor Strange, where he's by the book. He doesn't abuse his powers. He doesn't really
Yep.
care to be nice. He just he's just the sorcerer supreme. And in this movie, he's like, okay, I'll just erase everyone's mind. NBD.
Yeah.
It's out. Right. Right. It's out of character for Doctor Strange to the point where I was like, is this not going to be Doctor Strange? Is that the twist here? There's some other
Right.
sorcerer that does this because he knows it's going to fuck things up because it can't be Doctor
Yeah.
Strange doing it. But no, that didn't happen. And then what I hate about movies like this is when, yeah, sure, all the Spider-Men show up and it's like, oh yeah, look, it's Tobey Maguire, it's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Andrew Garfield, it's so cool. Spider-Man, the main Spider-Man in our universe here,
Mhm.
which is what's his face, Tom something or other, right?
Right.
Can't think,
Right. Right. I can't think of it.
can't think of his name.
Tom Holland. Tom Holland.
Tom
That's it.
Holland, yeah.
Yeah. Bro.
So Spidey Holland causes all the problems. So when he saves everybody at the end of the movie and he beats the villains, I don't feel like good job, Spider-Man. I'm kind of
Right.
like, well, fuck you, Spider-Man. You
And you
caused
brought it upon
all of this.
yourself.
You did all of this. You're not a hero. You caused all the problems. And then to shoehorn in all these cameos is just fan service. And I'm not against fan service. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I like to see those guys. But that wears off after like 2 minutes. And then you're like, did they build this whole movie around these other Spider-Men that we're never going to see again? Like
Yeah.
they're not coming back. We're not doing this again. It's not always going to be the Spider-Man team up movie, right?
Yeah.
You wasted
Mhm.
an entire film shoehorning in villain. There was no villain from this movie that wasn't from another movie.
Yeah.
We couldn't introduce the real like the MCU
Yeah.
Osborn and give me that Green Goblin. We had to bring back Willem Dafoe. Sure, he's great, but it's like, what are we doing? He's not even his villain. He's not even
No,
his
you make.
villain.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. For me, I like you said, it was fun to watch, but I have
Yeah,
no desire to rewatch that film.
exactly.
No desire. I think, and I can't remember. Actually, I think when this movie came out, I remember asking you a question about the plot. I can't remember, but one of the things, like you said, I think in the beginning of the film, when he's asking Doctor Strange, doesn't he get greedy? I think Doctor Strange is trying to
Yeah,
train something, and then
yeah.
he either I can't remember if
And
he
then he keeps
rushes
changing
him.
his request. Okay, but let this
Yes,
person remember. Oh, but don't
yes,
do this. And that's when he gets all screwed up. And you're
yes.
like,
Okay.
he causes everything. And then they give him an answer, like you push this button, everything's fine.
Yep.
Everything goes back to the way it is.
Yep.
And then they're like, well, we're not going to push that button. Well, why are you not pushing this button? Well, because then he'll go back and be a villain in his own world again, or whatever it was. And I'm like,
Hmm.
that's going to happen anyway. What are we doing here? What are
Yeah.
you trying to? What are you trying to do? What do you
Yeah.
just send them all back? What do you do? They can't stay here. They don't belong on this earth.
Yep.
And then the other thing is, it's like, if you don't know they brought in the villains that knew who he was or something. There was some cockamamie explanation
Yeah.
as to why these particular villains, right? Because all the villains who knew he was Spider-Man are the ones that get sucked through. But Jamie Foxx never knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man in that movie.
Oh, I have no memory. I trust you.
Yeah. So you're like, but it's supposed to be the people that knew he was Spider-Man. He never knew. I don't know.
I think it's one of those films like it's like, well, you're supposed to shut your brain off, but it's like
Like,
when the more you look at it, you're like,
all right.
well, I don't fully understand because I can't remember. Like I said, I don't want to watch it again. Really, quite
No, me
honest,
either. I have
I
no
don't know
interest in watching it
desire.
again.
Hmm.
So that's why I put that as my number 2 on this one.
Nice. I know. I think I talked about this in another episode, so I know which one it is. But I talk about Captain Marvel. This is
Hmm.
2019's. I think this is one of the worst, and I think there was some controversy because people were accusing of, I guess, other people like it's called review bombing. I guess when
Hmm.
you flood a website and you bomb
Yep.
it. But this movie is not good.
No, it is
Flat out
not.
not good. It's not even. I guess your best review can use really an average film, but I find it forgettable. It felt forced. I think
And she's
tonally,
so unlikable.
you know, I I remember when that movie came out. Like I was like, you know what? She won an Oscar for Room, which was great. And I felt ever since that film, I don't know if she just got turned off with the industry, but she's just been completely cringe on and off
Hmm.
screen. I can't eliminate it. She made some movie called A Wrinkle in Time. She did some press conference. It was ugh, you know. Um, but this film, I just felt like, the script is a mess. I mean, I think her character's supposed to be like not have emotion, but then when she's on Earth, she's like, I don't know, singing and dancing. She's blowing up a jukebox. She's like, where? And like, 'cause that's not her fault. She's only doing what the script tells her to do.
Right now,
Like
I'm not
the
blaming
director.
her for even being unlikable in the film. They've
But
made an unlikable character.
yeah, I mean, just boring, unlikable, and then not even only unlikable. There's almost nothing to her to
Hmm.
like or dislike. She's just
She's nothing.
yeah,
She's a
no
plot device.
personality.
She's not even like, she's just a
Yeah,
plot device in her own movie.
right. And if I remember correctly, I think it was Infinity War, right?
Mhm.
And at the end, again, what was it? The post credits. I think what's his name?
Oh
Samuel
yeah,
Jackson. He gets
Fury.
this. Yeah, he
He
gets
pushes
to
his
sell.
beeper.
Yeah, and you see the bank. So I'm like, okay, that gave the movie big hype. Okay, like because you're like, oh right, she's gonna help, bring him back, help everybody
Right.
else. Everyone got, turned into dust. And I just felt in this movie, I was just like, this is she's gonna be a presence against Thanos. I feel like Thanos just squashed her like a bug. I just feel like she had nothing. Um,
The
I remember she goes
yeah.
against Jude Law in it, and like I guess during the end she's like a final battle. Look, Jude Law's a great actor. Even he couldn't say this movie.
No one can save that movie.
And I just remember, I think I talked this out before. Just the
Marlon Brando couldn't save this movie. No one
yeah,
could.
exactly.
It was
And I just remember, I know I talked about this once before. And I said earlier in this episode how the Guardian of the Galaxy had such an impact on the whole franchise, and they're just placing songs that make no sense. At one point, she goes into I don't know where she goes, some kind of ultra dimension.
doesn't she go into like a blockbuster video in this movie?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And at one point she meets, I don't know, she's in some kind of, I don't know, dimension, and they're playing "Come as You Are" by Nirvana.
Yeah.
I'm like, it just doesn't work, man. I love
Right.
it. It's something I love Nirvana. Just the song doesn't work. It makes no sense, you know. And um, and I think for me the biggest crime of this film that just makes me go like, and I think it set the tone for the rest of a lot of Marvel stuff and Disney. It's Disney stuff especially is with the forced like girl boss
Hmm.
that because the whole beginning of this movie it's really about her just like not using a parent. Not much too much of her being a woman that kind of like her held her back. Like
Right.
society holding. Oh, we're not letting her pop off because she's a woman. That wasn't really a thing. It was really about her not showing her emotions, which is can be universal. Not expressing yourself. But towards the end of the movie, there's like a montage of how she was being held back, and every time she like swung a baseball bat, she's like standing up after a swing and miss.
Yeah.
She like I guess you get like I guess she gets a flat tire, like in a go-kart race. She like stands up, puts that helmet back on. I'm just like, what? And it just hurts the film. Like even it just doesn't. It just such. It really just dates the film, and yuck, it makes it really
Yeah.
cringe
It's
and
not
man.
good. It's not good.
Yikes. Yeah.
And then that brings us to my number 1 pick, right?
Yes, PJ. Yes. What do
Which
you have?
was Captain Marvel and the Marvels together. So we're right on the same page. So I'm not going to go back through rehash the
Right.
Captain Marvel because we already said how terrible that is.
Right.
But the Marvels is just as bad. Like it's just there's a scene in that movie where they go to a planet and the language on the planet is singing, so they all just sing. The
Oh my
whole movie
God.
is singing and dancing when they're on the stupid
Right.
planet. It's like a stupid joke. They bring in the Ms. Marvel, the kid from the
On the TV show.
yeah,
Right.
and
Okay.
Kamala Khan, who's very popular in the comics for whatever reason, but she's so unlikable. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Right.
They bring in the Monica Rambeau, who was in
Who is? Yeah. Is she from the
she
first? I don't know. You
she
know.
yeah. So you saw remember the first movie,
Right. She's
and
her
she has
friend,
a
right?
friend. She has the
Right.
friend. The black woman is her friend, and then that woman has a kid. Monica Rambeau
Ah.
is the kid.
Oh. Okay.
She's the
So.
kid.
Right.
Because don't forget,
Well,
the
how then?
original
Well, how
Captain
much
Marvel.
time goes past? And how old's Captain? She's like seems like let's say Captain Marvel's in her 20s, isn't? Wouldn't
Well,
that?
that's why nothing makes sense. Maybe because she's part alien, she doesn't age right. But I
Right.
don't know.
I see.
That's what they're going with. But the original movie takes place in the '90s, and you can actually
Ah.
really date that movie because Stan Lee's cameo was reading the script for Mallrats, and we know Mallrats comes out in 1994 or five, I think five. So this
Okay.
movie is taking place on or about 1994, and then I don't remember what year. I don't remember what year Infinity War came out.
I think it's somewhat present day. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed.
Well, here's the thing. It's somewhat. Let's take a look. Because here's the thing. It's present day, but only to an extent, right? Because
Right.
Infinity War, I have it up, so I'm going to pull it up. Endgame. Infinity War comes out in 2018. Okay. So we went from 1994 to 2018. How many years is that? Someone math me.
Wait, what is it?
2000, 2018 minus 1994. What do we get?
24.
So she's 24. 24 years have passed. So if
Yeah.
she's 20, 21, 22, she's now 44, right?
Oh, okay.
Here's where it gets even crazier. When we see her in Avengers Endgame, don't forget, 5 years passed.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Right.
they all, Thanos, they're all gone. We're dust.
Right.
And then the beginning of Endgame happens. They cut off the dude's head, right?
Right.
5 years later. So if she's 50.
Right. 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 Right.
She's a 50-plus-year-old woman in in the Marvels.
Right.
Because that takes place even a couple of years after Endgame. By the time the Marvels comes out, she's supposed to be in her 50s, close to 60.
Right.
With what? Doesn't she's not makes no sense.
Like you said, maybe
That
the alien, her alien part
I don't
alien
know.
shit made
I
it
mean,
doesn't age.
that
But
is just
Sam,
ridiculous.
that movie sounds just like a mess.
It's a
Hmm.
mess. They don't take into account that like I know, shut your brain off, like you said, right? You're supposed to shut your brain off,
Yeah.
but like I can't help but count. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I know
Yeah. Yeah.
math.
Yeah.
I know this woman's supposed to be in her 60s and she's not. And now it's so convoluted. And then like all of it to lead up to a Beast cameo at the end with Kelsey Grammer. I don't know.
Right. Right. Right.
It's,
Right. Right.
you're like, what is this even here for? Why is
Wow.
Beast showing up?
Wow. I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's a mess. That whole franchise is a mess.
Jeez. Well, it's funny how you're ending it on an X-Men because I'm actually gonna end on an X-Men
All
film
right.
for our Marvel ones for me. X-Men Apocalypse came out
Ooh,
2016. For me,
rough.
this killed the X-Men franchise as a whole. Because after that, you don't give a shit about Dark Phoenix. I mean, that movie was horrendous. I never saw it, but I heard it's horrendous. And the other stuff, Mutant Mutants, I heard it's all bad. But I mean, this movie, wow. I remember seeing this in theaters with my friend Mike, who did a Ninja Turtle episode and our Quentin Tarantino episode. So people check that out. Um, yeah, nothing can save this film, man. Not James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, really accomplished actors. Even Jennifer Lawrence. I mean, these are really great actors. They can't save this film. Oscar Isaac's in it. These are all exceptional actors.
Yeah.
Horrible movie. Boring, stupid. It looks awful. I mean, you have Apocalypse. He's gonna, Oscar Isaac is like Apocalypse. The makeup, even I guess he's wearing practical makeup. So, but just everything in general. This movie is just, it was just a piece of crap. And one of the things I hate, it really started with Days of Future Past is that they made Mystique into this
Yeah.
character. I can't stand that. And she's cool and everything, but like, I don't know why they had to switch out Rogue because really I never understood. Well, the Sentinels. I'm like, well, how do they? Why is her superpower? Isn't really Rogue the one who steals powers? I think from what I know from Mystique, she just looks like the person. She can only
Yeah.
replicate appearance, not actual powers. So, but yeah, I think I don't know so much to say about this film. It's just awful. It's really unwatchable. And I just remember at one point in the film, I'm like, man, I feel like maybe they were making this film. They were like, I think they already had Quicksilver in it, and they're like, all right, guys, when they were editing this film, this is what's gonna save the film. It's gonna make the movie bearable. Where he kind of basically repeats the same scene from Days of Future Past, where he's like saving who's ever in
Yeah.
his ass, and they're playing like I think they play Sweet Dreams, and yeah, nothing can repeat that magic. Like Days of Future Past is a solid film. I'll give it. I don't really have the interest in rewatching that film for some reason, but it's not a bad movie at all. But yeah, X-Men Apocalypse, man. Whew,
Terrible.
yeah, definitely not an Apocalypse Now. The
Yeah.
opposite of Apocalypse Now, the opposite of a classic. But yeah, and I just want to mention quick, PJ, just other dishonorable mentions. Like what you said, I don't like Thor 1 was awful. I put Daredevil, that's a bad movie. Fantastic Four 2 is a bad movie. I don't like Age of Ultron, and the Venom films as a whole aren't really that good. But
Yep.
yeah, not top 5 bad, but definitely bad.
Agreed. Agreed on all of those counts. And
So
that
now
brings us to
us
DC.
DC. Oh boy.
Oof.
And as you know, folks, we're going from all the films. So these are from, like I said, even let's say 89. I doubt that's on this list, but say
Mm.
movie from 89 till now. These are all DC
We should
property
hope
shit,
they were all. Imagine if 89 was the worst, right? But
right?
they should be. We should be so lucky as to have movies
Right.
like that.
Mm-hmm. What you
Oh,
got, PJ? You're number 5.
all right. Well, there's so
PJ's
many.
like, PJ's like, oh God, dreading this.
All right, because I'm gonna go with this one as my number 5, and it could maybe be number 1. Aquaman: and The Lost Kingdom.
I never seen it, but I can believe it.
I have tried to watch this movie on 5 separate occasions. I cannot get more than 30 minutes into this movie without being like, I
Wow.
can't do it. I can't do it. I'm gonna slip my wrist if I keep watching. I know that this movie had some struggles that were not its fault. Like
Yeah, the Johnny Depp
the
thing and all
Johnny
that.
Depp thing, they had to I'm sure they cut out so much Amber Heard because they were like, well, this bitch shits on pillows. We can't have her in our movie. Cut her out. She's not in it. Find a new. You could have found a new redhead. Like there's
Yeah,
just
just
put
yeah, you could have found another good looking chick. Yeah, I mean,
right. I mean, you could have done anything to try and save it. And then like this movie comes out, and no one. I mean, they're getting rid of this universe. They're just starting over. So
yeah,
this movie doesn't even matter to anybody, and you can
yeah,
feel that it matters to nobody when you're watching it. Everyone's just like phoning it in. Like it could have been cardboard cutouts, just like
yeah,
marionette puppets. Someone's just like
yeah,
controlling
yeah, yeah.
puppets. No one was acting. It was just like, I mean, it was so bad. It looks bad. It
Right.
looks cheesy. The acting is stiff. There's so many edits. You're like, what, did we just skip 20 minutes because that was Amber Heard's scene? Like we just skipped it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the first Aquaman, aside from the fact that it takes place in the desert and he's a fucking fish, the
Right.
first movie is pretty fun. It's got
Yeah,
a
it's a
lot of
fun.
action
Yeah,
adventure. There's a
it's
story.
for some reason it works. It's one of
Yeah,
those
for
you
some
don't know
reason it
how
works.
it worked, but it
It's
worked.
inexplicable. It shouldn't work.
Yes,
By all accounts, it should not work, but it did. And you're like,
exactly.
all right, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I guess I'll believe that this guy is Aquaman. But this one, I'm like, oh my god, it's just pitiful. And so
Mhm.
I had to put I would be higher on the list probably. Like it
Right,
maybe is the number one worst. Maybe if I could have gotten through it. But because
right.
I can't tell if it got any better because I can't make it more than 30 minutes, it's number 5 on the list.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, for my number 5, I don't have much to say. I almost didn't want to put it on here because it has almost nothing to do with any DC character. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Catwoman,
Oh
2000,
yeah.
because it's not Selena Kyle. She's called Patient Phillips.
Something yeah. And
Patience.
it's just
Her name is
bad
her name's Patience. I mean, wow, you needed a lot of patience to
to
make
get through the
edit
movie.
this. I
Ooh.
remember I didn't see this. I can't remember if I saw this in theaters or I saw it at home. I'm like many other people. I want to see Halle Berry, dressed up, black leather and everything. But this movie is just everything bad. It has no connection to Batman or anything like that. And I guess I don't have much to say. Like I say, it's horrendous. There's a
Yeah.
fight scene when she fights Sharon Stone. It's laughable.
Yep.
Um, and just some of the lines. I think she says at one point, like, "I am Catwoman, hear me
Hear me
roar."
roar.
I mean, wow.
Ooh,
I
it's
mean,
bad.
it's so funny because you hear Halle Berry. She's probably had some of the worst lines ever between this line and the one from the
From
first
X-Men.
X-Men with the whole
What
the.
happens when a toad gets struck by lightning?
Yes, thank you,
Same thing
PJ.
that happens to everything else.
I mean, this woman. You think she would tell the director, "Look, I can't say this line. Please give me anything to say." But hey, I guess she just goes with it. But and this movie won a ton of Razzies.
Oh yeah, it
And
did.
like I said, this movie is, and like we talked, like you said before, PJ, movies like Batman and Robin, those are very bad films, but they're not my top five. That's a bad movie, Batman and Robin. But nowhere near, for
Yeah.
my opinion, the ones I have on my list. But yeah, not much to say about that film. What do you got for four?
All right. I'm putting the franchise as a whole for this because there's only two movies. Although the second one is by far worse than the first. Shazam.
I never seen them, but
The first one is actually, well, it's not. I wouldn't call it great. You could watch it. You could watch it.
yeah, hmm
But the second one is so terrible. Um, and here's the thing about Shazam. For the longest time, the Shazam is the original Captain Marvel.
right, hmm
Until DC lost the trademark and couldn't call the book Captain Marvel anymore, and
right,
so they changed it all to Shazam. Shazam is just the he
right,
yells the name of the wizard Shazam and becomes
yeah,
Captain Marvel. But
hmm
now you've given this guy a name that if you introduce him to people, he can't say his own name, which is stupid. Because oh
right.
hi, my name is Shazam. Oh shit. So that alone is stupid. But the second movie, the plot is impossible to follow. There's like angry, there's like
It's all
evil
like
god,
Fury of the Gods or some
yeah,
shit.
Fury of the Gods, but they don't like, they're not that furious really. They're just like mildly peeved off gods, I guess, is but a
Yeah,
better name.
I always get nervous too when a movie has like the title of the film, then there's like a colon, and then it's like
Yeah,
Fury of the Gods or whatever it is. Like
yeah, it's
I
not
always get
great.
nervous, like Indiana Jones, you know,
Yeah,
da 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 da, like the Curse of the Black Pearl, whatever it is. I always get
yeah,
nervous with that. Like
yeah. It was not
it's
good.
not a bad, it's not a good look.
Zachary Levi was maybe the worst possible choice.
Wow.
The point of of this character is really wish fulfillment. It's a child who says a
Right.
magic word and becomes a superhero. The perfect choice, and I know you may not be a huge fan of this guy, but the perfect choice for Captain Marvel was like a John Cena.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I
I
guess
know
I
you
know
may
what you
not.
mean in terms of
He's like
right.
larger than life character, but he has a childlike energy to him that he can really play off. He looks like a stereotypical superhero with all the muscles over muscles and
Yeah.
like
Yep.
that, and it would give you a different look compared to like this little kid who then becomes a superhero. If it's wish fulfillment and
Yeah.
you take the look of a superhero, you're not going to look like Zachary Levi.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to turn into someone much bigger.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, so he doesn't fit the look of the character. He the kid they fuck it all up because the kid has a much more mature outlook on life and mature disposition than Captain Marvel. And they should have the same personality.
Right.
So why does his personality just completely
So
change?
drastic. Yeah.
Why is he like a mopey, emo, serious kid who then becomes
Right.
a goofball superhero? It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's the same brain. Uh, so it fails on that level. The suit looks stupid. It looks like they just put balloons under like a t-shirt to make him
Yeah.
like bulky and stuff.
Right.
So that the effects, the CGI, like you said, bad CGI could ruin a movie.
Yeah.
Bad CGI could ruins this one. The characters have no motivation for anything that they're doing. It's awful.
It sounds awful, and
Yeah.
I have no interest in seeing it.
And
Um,
then the second one, the first one ends and they give you like Superman, but they couldn't get Henry Cavill back because that was when they were fighting. So the first movie ends with Superman, but they don't show his face.
oh, like a stand-in.
It's a
Oh,
stand-in, but they only show his
like his
waist to
cape.
his chest. So you can see the S,
Oh,
and you can see the cape, but you don't see that it's not Henry Cavill.
interesting.
That's how the
Huh.
first movie ends, and then the second one they just like ignore that it's in a universe with other superheroes. They don't even mention it.
Right. Wow. 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 Didn't Henry Cavill? Didn't he come back though? Like for
He came
thing?
back for Black Adam.
Oh, Black Adam.
He came back in
Okay.
Black Adam, and then
Okay.
they were like,
Mhm.
"Never mind,
Right.
we're not doing this."
I'm not sure this is a controversial pick, but I just really hate this movie. Man of Steel.
I love
And
Man of Steel.
what?
I
Well,
think Man of Steel is one of the best
s-
superhero movies ever made.
Well, I totally disagree. For me, this movie is a big disappointment. I don't think Zack Snyder was the man for this job because he did an interview. I heard this years ago, but he did an interview with Joe Rogan. He's like, I wanted to deconstruct Superman. I'm like, he's not really the character to do that with. I mean, I just feel like this movie's just boring. And you have a great cast. So you have, like I said, Henry Cavill. I like him as Superman, like in the positive. I love Michael Shannon as an actor. He's
Hmm.
intense. You have Kevin Costner. I think he's a great actor. I do think it was a miscast with Amy Adams. I don't think she was right
I
for the
think so.
part.
I think
She's
she
she's
was
a
a
great
few
actress.
years too late to be that role.
Yeah, you needed exactly. I agreed. Yeah, you needed a you needed a brunette, a dark haired. You know what I mean?
Well, Lois did have red hair in the comics for a very long time. That is
Oh,
comic accurate. The thing people don't realize about Scott Snyder is he gave very, very, very comic book accurate movies, and the people that dislike the movies are usually like, "I don't like this." Well, it's straight from the
well,
comics.
right. Well, okay. Regardless,
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel right. Okay, I'm just rated as a movie ad in itself. I feel like this movie is just flat out boring. Um, just feels long. I'm not really interested in like this is a very Zack Snyder, but he gets very into like the religious overtones, a lot of like Jesus things, and I'm just like, look, I'm not, I don't give, I want to be like, this ain't this kind of movie, bro.
See,
um,
I disagree with
like,
all of that because that's what Superman is based on. That's how the character was created.
right. Well, this is my opinion, PJ.
I know, I know, and I hear it.
Right.
I'm just saying,
But I
like,
just,
this is a
well, then
crazy.
I'll say this: it wasn't pulled off right. If you think of, oh my God, who did the ones with Christopher Reeves?
Donner,
Um,
Richard
that's it.
Donner.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, that's what
No,
you
no,
want to see. You know, so and look, I don't mind them trying to change this up. I just find this movie really hard to get through. Actually, I didn't really care. I didn't mind he kills Riley and good twist his fucking head off. I don't know what the big deal was. I'm like,
no. People hated that for no reason. I
I
agree with
don't
that.
think that was that big of a deal. I think everything else about that movie is awful. um, I think the fight scenes are fine. I think they just get a little bit. They get too long. Like they should have really cut out 10 minutes of fighting towards the end. It just gets really just. It just looks like a video game at that point, and I just feel like the movie should have really been the tone where it's at the end where he destroys like these like government satellites. Like that's the tone we needed because everything else just doesn't work. I feel like you know I think at one point Kevin Costner was telling him like don't show people who you really are. I know it's not
That
supposed
was the
to,
one part of the movie I dislike. I
but
agree with
I
you
feel like
100%.
the tone was like if you're gonna make that kind of movie, you gotta like I don't know what the right word is like all go all in. It's just like I said, for me tonally it's a mess, and I just think
I do agree with that part about
it's a
Kevin
mess. It's
Costner.
just a
The
mess.
way he was as Jonathan Kent didn't work, and I also don't like the fact that like he didn't save his father in the tornado. Like
Yeah,
you could have,
I
you know what I
just
mean?
don't.
Like it works better when it's a heart attack because like he says in the Christopher Reeve movie, I have all these powers and all these things I could do, and I
Yeah,
couldn't even save him. But you
yeah,
could have saved him in this movie, so it doesn't work. Like it's
yeah.
not. I agree with you 100% on that. That's
This
the only
it's
part I didn't like
yeah.
was the
To
Kevin
me,
Costner stuff.
it's a really big disappointment, man. And I just I
But
don't know.
the
I
rest
just
of that
don't.
movie, I think, is fantastic. I love, in a big way, Man of Steel. I watch Man of Steel every few months. I rewatch it.
I don't know how.
I think it's brilliant. I mean, there's stuff in that movie that just like it was. I think it was fantastic. I love the
I think
Krypton stuff,
I think.
not being Icicle City anymore.
Oh,
I
some
think
of those
all of
things.
that is
Some of that.
great.
I mean, some of it. Like I said, there's some merit to this film. Yeah, I think there's some things that are good, but I think overall it just doesn't work. And then I think the biggest problem with this film is Zack Snyder. I think if you had a different director, it would have worked because I think they felt. I think the studio wanted to capitalize, which I never really understood the darkness of the Dark Knight series. I never thought the Dark Knight was really that
Well, the
dark. It
Dark
really
Knight
just
series, I think, is
I
well.
right,
We're gonna get
right,
there.
right. For me, I just felt like the Dark Knight series is not as
Yeah.
dark as they say it is. It's really just a crime genre, and there's actually
Yeah.
more humor in those films than people realize. It's really, it's a little bit more lighthearted than people really
I agree
give
with
it.
that.
I
I
don't
agree with
think
that.
I think the Man of Steel ones have made them very dreary and
Yes.
dark and way
But that I love that
over the
tone.
top.
I think they should be dark.
It doesn't work.
I think these movies
Yeah,
need
I
to be
don't.
more.
If
I
it's
think
done
they should be
well,
dark. I think they should be serious. You're
right? If
talking
it
about world-ending threats. This is just my opinion on it, right? We're talking about world-ending threats. I don't want my superhero to like crack a joke and go eat shawarma. Like
yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah.
world-ending threat.
Right, but I think at the same time, he just doesn't pull it off right, and I still don't understand why Warner Brothers really went. Like I might give him credit for sticking with Zach. They supported him. Appreciate their support for him, but I think you really had to
I
change.
I think these
Bad
movies
idea.
weren't made for a wide audience, like you say, right? Like because I understand where you're coming from,
Like
but
he did.
there's
Like he did a good job with Watchmen, where
I
that's
love
where
Watchmen
you
too.
do.
Yeah, I
That's
love
the whole
Watchmen.
thing was written to deconstruct superheroes. So I think he
Right.
was the guy for that. He should not be doing that. He should have really made, which I'll get later on. I think he should have made Batman films. I think they would have worked better with that. But
I think that had Snyder gotten they took away a lot of what he wanted to do right after Suicide Squad, and there's a
I don't
reason,
think
and
he
I'll go
direct.
into
I don't
that.
think he directed that. But
No, but it was a lot of his vision in there. But they took away what his vision was because so many people were complaining about
right.
all the, you know, all the other movies. Am I up to what am I up to? Am I up to my number
4.
four?
Yeah, go to 4.
So
Yeah.
all right, so my number four is Suicide Squad, the first one.
That's on my list, but I'll talk about it too.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
this is my number
The
four
first one,
on
I'm
here.
assuming, right?
Yes, the first one.
Okay. Okay.
The first one.
Mhm.
Um, that movie obviously is not great. I mean, there are parts of that movie that are great. Margot Robbie is great.
She's the only good part of that movie.
Only good part of that movie. I also like Amanda Waller. I like the casting for Amanda Waller. I
I mean,
think
she plays her part well, but I find her. I mean, you're supposed to hate her, but I find her very,
I think
like
they did a great
you can
job
still hate
casting
a
her.
character and somewhat still like them, if they're a
Yeah.
villain. I find her unlikable
I
though
think she
as
was
a
a great
villain.
cast. She's very much like she is in the comics. That was a great choice. You take those two out, the rest of the movie's terrible. I mean, I agree
Yeah.
100% with that. Um, where this movie fails, right, is Man of Steel came out, and
Hmm.
then you had Batman versus Superman, and then you had this, and so many people had so much negativity around Batman versus Superman that they took out all of the Zack Snyder. That's when he started to get like dialed back to how much he was involved in the movies. They started to change things that he wanted to do, and that's why this movie fails. Because you remember the original trailer for Suicide Squad was like it was almost going to be DC's Guardians of the Galaxy, and then
Oh
the
yeah, I was gonna say that's
right.
definitely
And
influence
then
with
the
the
movie
music,
came out, and
the
you're like, this is
Queen.
not what the trailer looked like. A completely different person edited this trailer than the movie. There were so many
Yeah.
reshoots. They changed so much because they wanted to make this movie lighter and lighthearted because people said Batman versus Superman was too dark. And that's why this movie fails because of all the reshoots, the changing of the shift in tone. There's a cut of this movie that doesn't exist. The director, I think, is David Ayer, and he
Yeah.
said there is a complete his movie is completely different, but they won't
Which I
release.
believe. Which
Yeah,
I
they
believe.
won't release that cut. They won't do it, they said. But there is a much different movie out there that is maybe better. The thing is, Snyder is involved in all of these movies, right? Even though he didn't write and direct every single one of them, he wrote these movies the way you would write a comic book. And you ever like you read a comic book? Let's say you're reading Justice League, right? And there's a 5-part story of Justice League, but all the other books have tie-ins. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
this month's issue of Batman also ties into the main story. That's what he was setting up, and he did it in a way where there was things on the screen, even in Suicide Squad. You're like, that's straight from a comic book. This is how they would do it in a comic book.
Yeah.
The regular audience, just who's going to a movie, looks at this and it feels disjointed, right? I look at it and I'm like, it's not disjointed. These all go together perfectly. You just have, but it's done the way a comic book is done. And comic books are very dark in the DC universe. They are darker than Marvel comics. That's the tone of DC. Even with Superman in stages, that's the tone of DC. But it's not what the general public wanted, and that's why it
Right.
failed.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad's terrible because they recut it so many different times.
Right. I can't blame the audience for not liking. I think the audience will like something if it's legitimately good. It's
I
not
I
a good
think,
movie. It's not a
but
good movie.
I'm not. No, this movie is
It's not
bad.
even.
This
It's
movie is
not even.
very
But I
bad.
think it's
But
too
I'm saying
intrusive
the
tone. It's
entire
too dark.
universe.
I think that's just a cop out.
I don't
People.
think it is.
I think people like dark things if it's done well. Logan. If you want to call it Dark Knight trilogy
I don't
dark,
think
that
I
works.
like Logan, but I don't think Logan was done that well. I like
Mm.
it. I think it's great. I would 10 times out of 10 times watch Man of Steel before Logan
Oh my god.
because I if you want to talk about a movie that's long and drawn out, Logan is
But
long
that's.
and drawn out.
I don't think so. I don't. I
I
think. Well,
and
we can we can go all
yeah,
out on that,
yeah.
but Yeah, I don't know, but
But
I'll just talk
Suicide
about.
Squad is
I know,
universally bad. It's just
yeah,
bad, and
yeah.
it's because of how many times they recut it. I think the David Ayer cut would be much better if
I
they were to
think
actually show it.
yeah, maybe I think it might. Yeah, I think this movie is like a 2 out of 10. Maybe with David Ayers, it could be a 4 out of 10. Maybe a five out
I
of
mean,
10.
he has said it's a completely different movie. He goes, none of the plot's the same. The villain is different. It's supposedly like if you would have watched that movie, you wouldn't even know that the first movie existed. That's what he's claimed.
If they came out with the Snyder cut, I'm confident they might down the line come out with a.
I think they want to distance themselves from
But
everything related to this now. So I don't think we'll ever see it, unfortunately.
right, I'll just briefly talk about. I have it as my number two, so I'm
Okay.
skipping up ahead. I'm skipping my number three, but my number two, and I'll go to my number three. But for like I said, I put number two for Suicide. I think this movie is horrendous. Like I said before, you can see the impact of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's crazy because you think about you have this great cast, and look, you have Margot Robbie. Look, you can say what Jared Leto might be out of his mind, but he's a good actor. Okay, he's a very good actor. Yeah, and you have. I'm not the biggest fan of Will Smith before the slap. It wasn't, but I mean, you have all these people have a lot of charisma, charismatic people, and they can't save this film. And it's
Well,
just
Will Smith
everything
can't save any film. Let's be
right.
honest.
And I just and the thing with Jared Leto as Joker, you can eliminate all of his scenes that wouldn't impact the story.
Right. Right.
And I don't know I understand you want to change up the look of the Joker and all that stuff, but for me, the Joker should be threatening, imposing to like a Batman. For me, I'm like, this guy, he's
So
not.
again,
Yeah,
this
I
is
don't
why I
know.
say it's not meant for the general audience. That Joker is straight from the comic books.
Well, I'm
So
talking about in terms of I'm just for me in
I know
this
I get
film,
what you're
he's
saying.
not
No, no,
comic
I
book or
agree with
not,
you. I
and I
agree
don't
with you
care.
that it's not well received and he doesn't do a great
Right,
job in it. But what I'm saying is like when
right.
I
Even if
saw
it's and
that
just because
movie,
it's from a comic book doesn't mean the comic book itself is good. That comic book
the
could be
comic book was
dog
great.
shit.
The comic book is based on it
Right,
is fantastic.
right.
The thing
So
is,
there's a
when
there's a there's a Joker walking around with a thing on his forehead that says laughing gas or what the fuck it says.
yeah, there was a Joker covered in tattoos. Whether or not it's
All right.
damaged, probably not.
Okay. Is there a
But
Joker in there who goes like
well, I mean, you laugh how you laugh, right? I
right?
don't
I'm just
like
saying I don't think there's a Jared Leto in that comic book. I'm saying
there is.
right,
That's what
maybe
I'm saying.
physically, but we don't know.
Eh,
It's on a page. We have our
Well,
imagination.
you're right.
But
You're gonna read it the way you're gonna read it. But
right,
I'm just,
so the
but
one that
I
exists in
can't
that book is
read
not the
into someone's
one.
voice in the comics how the writer
Right, exactly.
envisioned the
What I'm
voice.
saying is his acting was awful as Joker. It's not because Ben Affleck is awesome. I think he's great as Batman,
He is
and
great as
he.
Batman for sure.
You're trying to tell me that he's going to be no way, no way.
But
And I
Joker's
don't.
not supposed to be a physically imposing
I
character.
no, not. I didn't mean it like physically. I'm talking about like a true imposing doesn't mean to be. Trust me. Some of the scariest
Right.
people I've met in my life. You think of Joe
It's
Pesci,
cerebral. Right. Right.
right?
Cerebral.
You think of those people. Napoleon Bonaparte. You know what I mean? These people are short people. Yeah. So yeah, some of this my own personal life who I met on the streets, they're
No, I agree. I
shorter than
just
me.
think
I'm five
again when
six.
I saw the
So I
movie,
think imposing, like I said, you need someone who's going to be, even Jared, what's his name? Heath Ledger. He wasn't jacked in the film. You didn't don't think
no, no, he wasn't.
he did no
I
push-ups for the film, but you felt
like
no.
I've said a bunch of times about that movie, and we'll talk about it when we get there. I don't think those movies. We'll get there.
Right.
But why don't
But
you give your
anyway,
number three? Because
right.
I saw your number
Suicide
three. Yeah.
Squad, awful film. Everything's about it is awful, and I hate Rick Flag. That guy, whoever that guy, can't act either. Um, for number three, I actually put Batman versus Superman. I just
I
felt this
disagree with
movie
that too.
was just tonally all over the place. It was like they're trying to be like fun. They're trying to do like the Marvel thing, unfortunately.
I didn't find that they were trying to be fun. I don't think they squeezed way too many characters into that movie at one time.
Well, yeah, I think exactly. Tonally, it's all
Mm.
over the place. You have all these million different characters. You have Wonder Woman's in there. She's I don't know where. You have uh Jesse Eisenberg, which was awful, awful. I mean, the guy's still playing the guy from Facebook.
Yeah, that was a
Just,
choice.
I mean, yikes. I mean, you have to me, in the theater, I rolled my eyes. I don't really think it was that big of a deal, but I love the memes, the whole Martha thing.
Yeah,
That
there are
there's
things in that movie that are bad for
and
sure.
towards the end of the film, there's a lot of that. There's like they throw a saber, they throw it down. They throw it away because it has kryptonite. Then they have to go
Right.
down back
And
in to
get
get
it.
the
Yeah.
saber. I mean, and I felt like in this movie, like I want to tell Zack Snyder, I think you should have just made a Batman film. It just seems like he should have made it.
Well,
It's like another.
Ben Affleck
And
was supposed to make the Batman film.
yeah, I know,
And
which she should have done. Unfortunately, we
yeah,
got the Batman, which I think is awful, but not
I
on
love
my
Batman
top
too.
5 list. It's not that bad. I think it should be top 5 worst, but um, like I said, I think this movie just tonally all over the place, and I don't, like I said, I don't understand. I don't really understand when people say this movie's dark. I don't. I get. I know it's trying to be dark. The movie just felt like they're just trying to. It just didn't. I don't know what it is to put my finger on it. It just felt like a mess, and it just felt like I just
I
have
think
no
they
interest in
tried to
things.
do too much. That said, I like the
I go
movie.
back to my thing. You can't get Zack Snyder. You gotta get the guy is not that good of a director. His best films are really 300 and maybe Dawn of the Dead. Those are his best films. I think Watchmen is very good. I
I
think it's
don't
the
care
best.
for his
Best
Dawn of the
films.
Dead.
300 is. I don't like Dawn of the Dead that
Yeah.
much. I think it's
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't care
talent
for his Dawn of the Dead.
for
I think
his.
Watchmen is fantastic. I think 300 is fantastic. I think Man of
It's
Steel is
best.
fantastic. I don't hate Batman versus Superman. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that you could have scaled back on. There's too many characters. I agree with that. I think the beginning of that movie, when it's Batman's perspective, what's happening during Man of Steel, that's
Yeah, well, I'm
fantastic.
saying like all these films we're
Yeah.
talking about have some good parts, but I think for me the cons outweigh any or hardly any pros. It just
But I
doesn't
what I
work.
like about that movie is all the stuff they pull straight from the comics. They pull straight from
Right.
Dark
Well,
Knight
like I said before,
Returns,
you
and
can
it
pull things from a comic. Doesn't mean it's someone can actually translate it well into film.
it's he translated that fight well between Batman and Superman. What was on the page and was on the movie, there was stuff that was directly from it,
Right,
and
but doesn't mean
and it,
he doesn't. In my opinion, it doesn't mean he did it well.
I think he did it. I think he did the fight great. I'm
Okay.
saying the movie. I'm not saying the movie is great. I'm saying there are bits in the problem that he had with the movie is stringing the great bits together. It's all the stuff in between the great bits that he didn't connect, and that's his
and he's
fault.
not,
That's his
and he's,
fault.
and that's why he shouldn't be hired to do that
But
job.
I think if he was the Kevin Feige of the DC universe and would let directors make the movie based on his overall story arc, I think that would have been a better way to go.
Well, I agree with that, but he's obviously not. I don't think he's the man for the job either way.
I mean,
Um,
we're gonna see that James Gunn's not the man for the job either, but that's
so right, I agree with that too.
yeah, we're gonna see
I mean,
that
I
that
think
was
that
not.
ship has sailed. I think
I
superhero movies are over.
I
But
think we're gonna man say, hey, I wish we could get. I really wish we could get Snyder back after we see these James Gunn movies.
what's your number 2, PJ?
My number two is hold on. Let me get my list. Wonder Woman 1984.
I was gonna put that. I didn't put it on there. I mean, it's bad. Like I said,
I had
I
a whole
put that
review
in
on it,
my
so I don't wanna redo an entire review again. I have
yeah.
said many reasons why I think that movie is bad. I know we spoke about it on plenty of other episodes.
Yeah.
It's just it's just bad. I mean, the storyline makes no sense. There's like a wishing rock. You wish on the
Yep.
rock, you get powers, or you get
It's a
whatever you
mess.
want, and then the more you wish, the more powerful the other guy gets, or something like
Cheesy,
that. And
corny.
it's corny. There's a weird love story where like a ghost takes over someone else's body, and
Right.
it's just bad. I mean, she's just basically a rapist at this point. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
it's what's happening in that movie. It becomes a weird Hallmark movie at the end with Christmas. It's everything about that movie is wrong.
Yeah. And I think that movie shows you, like, for some reason with Gal Gadot. Like, look, I don't know all her filmography. The first Wonder Woman. They say the director, whatever, Patty Jenkins, right? I think they knew how to, or maybe the editing room, that you got the best bits out of her. In this film, she couldn't really carry it. She couldn't do it. But yeah, that movie, yikes, um, yikes. Yeah, for actually my number 2, like I said, was Suicide Squad, the first one. And before I reveal my number 1, there's a movie that I couldn't. I said I only put movies here that I feel that I actually saw the entirety through, so I felt like it wouldn't be just to put them in. But I couldn't get through this movie. I was on TV. Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey.
Mhm.
Wow, I couldn't get through it. If I could have gotten through it, that probably would have been number 1, but I couldn't get through it. But what I do have for number 1 is 2011's Green Lantern. Wow. More like when you go to the bathroom, you have green shit. That's what this
Yep.
movie is.
Yeah, that movie's
This
not good.
movie, I think I put the only positive in this movie that I liked was Mark Strong as Sinestro. I liked how he looked. I just
He was pretty good at
I
Sinestro. Yeah,
liked him, and also I said looking at Blake Lively. That's about it. This movie is
terrible, awful,
horrendous,
everything
and I
about it.
think and I think you. I don't think I understand because during this time, well, I guess I want to say maybe mid 2000s, Ryan Reynolds was. I understand why they chose him, but
He was
at the
not the
same
right
time,
fit.
he still wasn't the right fit. He can't pull it off. He can't pull off that dynamic. I think I'm trying to think in retrospect who you could have picked. Maybe a Carl Urban. Maybe he
You,
wasn't a big enough star to
I'll
do
tell
it.
you who would have done a great job,
But
and I only say this because
maybe a Michael Fassbender. Maybe
I
he was
just
a
found out
technique.
yesterday he declined being in the movie, but he would have been a good fit. A John Hamm.
John. Yeah.
He
Yep.
declined being in the movie. I
Yeah.
just
He would
found
have
that
been a
out.
little younger at that time.
Yeah,
Yeah. He
like
could pull
character,
that
someone
off.
like that. Someone
He
who's a
needs
little bit
someone
more.
handsome and
Yeah.
everything. Charisma.
Hmm.
That's why
But not a joke. Not a joke. Not a sarcasm character.
exactly.
Just like
Definitely not.
he's
Yeah.
yeah, like a leading man kind of role you
Yeah.
needed. Yeah.
And if I had to pick someone today, I would get. He's kind of really hot right now. Glenn Powell. He's a guy from now from Top Gun Maverick. Kind of
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
the snarky
Yeah. I
I
could see
compare.
that.
Him. Handsome. He's got the whole look. But to me, like I love Green Lantern. I think he's unfortunately one of the most underused characters of DC, and this movie unfortunately killed him. It sniped him. I felt like he could have been like almost the Doctor Strange or the
Hmm.
Black Panther of the. And I'm saying how those things turned out
Yeah.
now, just turn of like the kind of what he could have
Yeah.
represented, like that kind of major important character. He has a whole mystique with the ring and his character, all those, whether you're Hal Jordan, John Stewart, all of them, like you have a lot to work with there. And you
And they
could have
just
had a,
missed the boat on all of it.
yeah, this movie you
And
can't.
then Parallax is like a cloud thing.
Yes, I put that
Oh,
in
it's
there. You
terrible.
had that the actor who turns into the Cloud. He's a good actor. I think his face starts to get very
Yeah.
swollen. He's a good actor. I don't know what his name is, but he plays a good nut in movies.
Yeah.
But and I even wrote in my notes has one of the dumbest, stupidest endings in terms of like a climax, a fight. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yes.
just
It's awful.
stupid. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just
Not good.
like I said, Green Lantern more like green shit. So
Yeah. That was
that movie is
not a good movie.
horrendous.
100% agree with that one.
Horrendous.
Does that bring me to my number one?
Yeah, we're up to number one, man.
The Dark Knight trilogy.
A little overboard, PJ, but
I hate them. I've gone through this over and
right.
over.
Just like I
I
hate the Zack Snyder films.
Yeah,
Is the
I
same with
hate everything about them. They're not Batman movies. They are nothing to do with Batman. Take out Batman. That movie is the same movie. And if you're gonna make a movie about Batman, you should follow why Batman is Batman. They don't do any of it. He does nothing right in that movie. He makes a Christopher Nolan movie, but gives his main character pointy ears. That's what he did. He didn't make a Batman movie. So am I saying it's a bad, again, like I said with some of the Marvel movies, it's not a badly made movie. It's not a badly directed movie. It's a bad Batman movie. It's a good something else. It's a very, very bad Batman franchise.
hmm
And you could go back and listen to the old episodes. I've shit on these
Yeah,
movies a number of times, so I don't need to go into it again and again and again. But for me, that last one where Batman gets too sad to be Batman is like the exact opposite of what Batman is.
right. I think I'm taking it in terms of the universe of the film, where I don't think he's. I think he was. I don't think he was too sad. I think the Harvey Dent act is passed, and he feels like he doesn't need to.
They're still
Uh,
crime. Batman
yeah.
will, but
You know,
that's the
no, I
point of
know, I
Bat.
know. No, you
But
could.
that's the point of
I agree
Batman is
with to
that
a
he
certain
would
degree,
never
but
stop.
for me, it's not. Um, you know, it's not a deal breaker for me. I mean,
It's more than a deal
but
breaker for me. Like I don't think they should ever let Christopher Nolan ever make another superhero movie, and he probably won't make another superhero
well,
movie.
it's funny
So it's
because
fine.
he's the one who helped produce Man of Steel, and I don't
I
think he
know.
should have been the man to do that.
I
I
don't think he
think
should have
that
been
was
the
a
man to
bad
do
idea.
that. I know he was involved, but I think he was involved in name only. I think there would. I don't think he had
No, he
anything to.
wrote. I think he helped write the whatever. He helped come up with the idea of the creative room or some shit. He was
Well,
part of it.
then
For
maybe
the
he got
first one,
something
at
right,
least.
but he didn't get the Batman ones right at all. I don't know. I don't understand when I watch those movies. I'm like, at what point do we actually see a Batman movie here, where any of this is not just a crime fighting movie? Batman is very specific character that has very specific characterization. If you ignore all of it, then it's not Batman anymore, and that's what happened.
Right. I think I would encourage folks to check out our ranking the Batman films to hear us talk more
Yeah.
about that. But
Yep.
um, But PJ, we have a hard job right now. We got to pick. We have to work together, PJ. Okay.
Okay.
Sometimes this happens in films where you have,
Yeah.
and then what was it? Unstoppable force meets an
Yeah.
immovable object.
Yeah.
So, all right. So what? Let's start with the Marvel films. What between our ones could we really put in there? You
We
know,
got it. I think Captain Marvel is
yeah, Captain Marvel
I
for
think for
sure.
sure.
So we have that in there.
I would say Wolverine Origins.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Trying to think of what else.
I
You
had
would,
I don't know, X-Men Apocalypse is pretty fucking bad, man.
that is. That
All
is,
right.
but you know what? I'm gonna watch that again before I watch those Guardians movies.
I can't put that on top 5 worst, man. You know,
I I mean I dislike those Guardians movies so much. So much. I mean, I think we could agree that that Suicide Squad should be on there.
yes,
All right,
absolutely.
so we have the
We have
Marvels. Well, the Captain Marvel.
Captain
We got
Marvel,
Suicide
Wolverine.
Squad.
hmm
We have what was the other one? We have Wolverine Origins
Yep. So those 3.
3. Um, what else?
Should we do Green Lantern?
Yeah, Green Lantern's fine.
Green
I think
Lantern.
that's so. There's that 4.
That's 4. Now I'm for me, you know, I said some of the DC ones are bad, bro. I would either say uh 1980 woman, right? Wonder Woman is bad, man. I think it's almost worse than Catwoman, just because it's like, man, what were you thinking? Like,
Yeah, I mean
Catwoman's bad,
that's
but
that
you
movie
could
is
say,
it.
I guess someone could say subjectively, like, or objectively, that a Catwoman is worse than, which is probably true. But when you take into context of everything that came from Wonder Woman, one, the first one, and then
Well, Wonder Woman 1 being so great and Wonder
and
Woman
then,
84 being so awful.
mhm. Are we
But
gonna
like,
settle?
but that being said, like Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, is a piece of shit.
So, PJ, I'm leaving this to you for our number 5 pick, and then we'll rank them one, I guess best of the worst. Would
Okay.
you do which is worse, 1984, Wonder Woman, or whatever, Doctor Strange multiverse?
I mean, it depends on what you think makes a movie worse because there's so much wrong with both of those movies.
I haven't seen it, so I can't really. All I can say, the only thing that I feel like
I'm
Doctor Strange might be a little worse because he's not even the main character, like you said.
that's what I'm gonna say. That's
So
why I'm like, is
Doctor
that one
Strange,
worse? Because he's not the main character. Wonder Woman 1984 is a way worse movie, but
right?
like it's still her movie.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Is that amazing?
So I don't know. What do you think makes it worse? The fact that they made a movie where he's not the main guy. He or is it worse because the other one's just a worse movie altogether? Man, they're both pieces of shit in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think whew,
So,
that's a tough one.
right. So
I,
so we have Doctor Strange multiverse, that one, Captain Marvel, Wolverine Origins, Suicide Squad, and Green Lantern. So let's say which one we think. I think we'll start with the worst. That might be the easiest. What's number 1?
number one worst. It's got to be Captain Marvel. It's got to be. It's
Okay.
right. Doesn't have to be.
You know what? Fuck
Awful.
that movie. Fuck that
It's
movie.
so it really fucked
I
that
think of
movie.
all the movies that I walked out of seeing, that's the only one I could truly say, man, fuck that movie,
Fuck
man.
that
Because
movie. It's got to be.
even if when I saw Suicide Squad, I was just disappointed. I felt more hurt than I was like aggravated.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, I
I
think
felt
Suicide Squad's
insulted.
got to be number 2.
Yes. Yeah, that movie is bad. That's one of the worst I've ever seen in
It's not
general.
good. It's just not. There are things in that are good, but most of it's bad.
Mhm. Okay, so we got those down. We're left with Doctor Strange, Wolverine Origins, and Green Lantern.
I think Green Lantern.
Yeah, that's
I
it
think,
was bad.
and then I think Wolverine. Right? I mean, that's where
Yep,
I'm going.
yep. And then you have Doctor Strange at the end. Woo! So,
Which
folks, what were you gonna say, PJ? I'm
I was
sorry.
just saying that Doctor Strange should have been so good. I think that movie makes me so mad because I wanted it to be so good.
Yeah,
Like Wonder Woman 1984 looked bad going in.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Doctor Strange looked good going in,
It
and
had
then it gave us a
promise, a
piece of
little bit
shit.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you felt good because you had Sam Raimi doing it.
right.
So
Exactly. There was so much going for it, and they fucked it
oof.
all up.
I think I'll say my last thing, and then we'll wrap things up. So folks, our combined worst comic book films is number 5 is Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Number 4 is Wolverine X-Men Origins. Number 3 is Green Lantern. Number 2 is Suicide Squad 1, and number 1 slot is Captain Marvel is worst film. And I think of all the films, whether the ones you and I agree on or disagree on, I think the biggest culprit is always tone, right?
Yep.
I guess maybe the
Lack
word
of
is
vision.
lack of vision. Yep. And yeah, I think that's the biggest things, and just disappointment. Like nothing hurts. Like, look, we had no expectation for. I know I put Catwoman on here, but you had none,
Right.
But it's still a really bad film. But these other ones, like, man,
The other ones
those
had
hurt.
such a big budget, great cast, so much promotion and
It's
hype, and then you
man,
go in and you're like, what the fuck?
wow, and it makes you really wonder, like, how could you have all this money, all this talent, though?
And this is what you came up with.
Right? Even someone like a Zack Snyder, who I don't really think he's a great director, but the man still has made good movies. How do you come up with these, or even like a Christopher Nolan? In your opinion, like, how do these guys who have talent, who movies, like you said, just lack of vision, or just tonally all over the place? These films just don't. It's
It's
just
like some
incredible.
of these people can't take it because it's an adaptation, no matter how you look at it. This is all an
Yes.
adaptation.
Yeah.
And some of these guys can do great creative pieces when
Right.
it's their work. But when
Yeah.
it's interpreting someone else's work, they just fail.
Yeah. And my last thing is, I always try to say things, okay, like if I'm sitting in the director's chair or I'm sitting in a studio chair, I feel like if I was at the studio, like I was like one of the guys at Warner Brothers, Disney, I feel like, look, we need to do 2 things. We need to make a movie that is very good, and we need to make a lot of money. Where, like for me, if someone came up to me, show me a rough cut of like Green Lantern or whatever, I would be like,
What the
yo,
fuck
what do
did
you
you
guys?
do?
Right,
And
I
you
know they'll
do it.
probably say just release it just so we make some money back, but like I would be fucking furious if I was like like a studio head.
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys doing? Like you don't need to be a genius to be like this is shit. Like I know sometimes you have to make them have their trust in them and do their thing, but some of the stuff just objectively you could be like, yo,
Yeah.
this does
I
not
agree.
work. I mean, man, don't you want to like you're in the business of making money? Like, man, I don't get it. I don't get it. Just something I just never get. But yeah, folks, thanks for hanging out with me and PJ at this table today. It was a long lunch period, so thanks for listening. And I don't even know what to even say. I don't know if I should even recommend these films, PJ.
I
I mean,
wouldn't.
some of these watch for, I guess to say to form your own opinion. And some of these really, especially these the top 5, we don't even bother watching. They're a waste of time. So, but yeah, same time, same table.
Have a good one.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.